Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day. Hope you guys are enjoying your day. Hope you guys are working hard. Hope you guys are having a pleasant day. Hope you guys are resting for those of y'all who need to rest. Hope you guys are pushing I hope you guys are striving to reach your goals. Um, my name is Upubesi. On Instagram, you can catch me on Pubesi Umphathi Umhlaba. On Twitter, it's Pubesi_11. And welcome to my YouTube channel, Athlete's Voice, where we discuss all sporting codes, from golf, soccer, netball, rugby, cricket, you name it. Today we'll be discussing the return of the Spanish La Liga. It's a new season. We've waited for almost 2 months or 2 to 3 months for the new season to resume. And what a weekend it has been. It has been raining goals. We've seen red cards. We've seen, so much goal mouth action. And wow, it has been a wonderful return. The new signings of the clubs, making their mark, and all players who are still also making their mark as well. So it seems like this season is going to be an exciting season with regards to La Liga, and we might see some huge competition. Perhaps, of course, everybody we might assume that it might be between Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, but we never know. Maybe there might be another team like Real Sociedad. They did well last season. Perhaps even Sevilla. They've shown that they can compete at a big stage. Perhaps maybe even Valencia. Valencia has got a massive history. After the Mestalla just turned 100 years old this year, maybe that might give Valencia some more optimism of actually upping their game, doing well this season. And yeah, so even speaking about Valencia, they got off to a perfect start. We saw the Friday night kickoff between Sevilla and Valencia, which took part at the Ramos Sanchez Pizjuan. And it resulted in a 2-1 victory for Valencia, with goals by Guinean Mokhtar Diakabi, as well as Javier Correa adding to the score sheet. It was a pretty decent game. Of course, it was dominated by Sevilla. We're knowing very well on home ground. Their fans are always rallying behind them. It's always a packed atmosphere. It's always a breathtaking atmosphere to see. And obviously, that's what gives the players more motivation to actually perform and perform to their best. So, without further ado, we saw Valencia. Valencia took the lead, of course, Valencia took the lead in the 60th minute, courtesy of the Guinean midfielder Mokhtar Diakabi, who's a French-born Guinean midfielder. He slotted the ball coolly into the back of the net after being set up by the new Portuguese talisman who was recently signed from Benfica, Andre Almeida. As well as we saw Sevilla did get the equalizer 9 minutes later, following a wonderful cross by former AC Milan and Liverpool midfielder Suso, who set up Youssef El Nasiri. Wow. Youssef El Nasiri has shown that he's a quality striker, pacey. He's got a great heading ability. And I wouldn't necessarily say that he's one of the tallest forwards in the world, but he's got a great heading ability, as we saw even in the World Cup with that headed goal that he scored against Portugal, which made history for Morocco, dumping out Cristiano Ronaldo and co. And yeah, he's got a great aerial presence. He's always at the right place at the right time. He always wants to be there. He always wants to be in the goals. Perhaps we hope that maybe he might score 20 goals this season, maybe 30 goals, compete for the Pichichi alongside Robert Lewandowski of Barcelona, perhaps alongside Alvaro Morata of Atletico Madrid, or even Antoine Griezmann. Oh, time will just tell. Time will tell us. And then we saw Valencia clinching it right at the death in the 80th minute, courtesy of youngster Javi Guerra, who was set up by Hugo Duro, which set Valencia on track for their season. And hopefully this can be their season, their breakthrough season after some disappointing results in the past campaign, just like last year, where they were fighting relegation with the departure of also Uruguayan talisman Edinson Cavani, who has gone back to South America. As we saw, he has signed for Boca Juniors. And then in the other Friday night clash, we saw Almeria taking on Rayo Vallecano. The score resulting in a 2-0 victory for Rayo Vallecano, which was basically a game of penalties. To say, it was a game of penalties. We saw both goals were scored by penalties in the first half in a space of just 8 minutes. In the 20th minute, we saw Isaac Palazion converting from the penalty spot. And then the second penalty spot was converted by Randy Ntika, which, indeed, he is a French attacker. He is also known he's a prolific French attacker. So that was basically it. There was not much goal-mouth action in that clash as well. So basically the game was sealed in the first half with both goals scored from 12 meters out. Then in Saturday's fixture, we had mouth-watering encounters, with the first being at San Sebastian, the wonderful coastal city of Spain. Obviously the home of Real Sociedad, who will be competing in this season's UEFA Champions League. Like I said earlier on, they had a great season in the past season. So they were held to a 1-1 draw by Mallorca, but they were held to a 1-1 draw by Girona. Girona held them to a 1-1 draw. We saw they took the early lead, courtesy of former Real Madrid youngster Japanese Takefusa Kubo. He scored in the 5th minute of the game after he was set up by Ayhan Munoz, the left back of Real Sociedad. And then we saw in the second half, they had wonderful chances. We saw Kubo could have had a brace. He had a shot that was saved by the goalkeeper. And we saw Real Sociedad was pretty much dominant throughout the first half. Even in the second half, they created so many chances, but they were unable to convert most of those chances. Then we saw in the second half, Girona did get the equalizer, courtesy of Ukrainian Artem Torbeik, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He scored in the 72nd minute. A Ukrainian forward who was signed from Dnipro in the Ukrainian Pro League. He netted, 44 goals in 71 matches for the Ukrainian team, which actually that's the reason why Girona actually signed him in the first place. And he was set up by his compatriot, Viktor Tsibanhankov. Yeah, it was a combination of both Ukrainians. They were both signed from the Ukrainian Premier League, as the man who created the goal was signed from Ukrainian giants Dynamo Kiev. Yeah, so this was basically a combination of both Ukrainians, and they both have quality. They both possess quality. Perhaps maybe their quality might prove to be very dangerous towards opposition in this game, in the upcoming season. Hopefully they can actually make something happen for Girona in terms of their season. Hopefully they can help Girona finish maybe in the top of the table, or even if in a European spot. I guess you never know. But with all the quality that they've got, perhaps it wouldn't really come much as a surprise if they finish in the top half of the table. So, the next few games, as well as how they perform throughout the season, will tell us, whether, they are worthy competitors at the end of the day in this La Liga season. In the other game that also took place was a game between Las Palmas, newly promoted Las Palmas. They took on Mallorca. It was a stalemate, a 1-1 draw, courtesy of goals by Jonathan Vieira in the 29th minute. He scored for Las Palmas from the penalty spot, of course. As well as we saw Antonio Jose Ralillo Arenas, as he was set up by former Espanyol captain Sergi Dardemol in the 70th minute. So basically it was a stalemate. Not much goal action, to say the least, but basically it was a game worth watching. So much entertainment, so much intensity. Hopefully both teams will continue to show some prowess forwardly, and perhaps maybe they might also perform very well. In the game that was much anticipated, of course, it was the Athletic Bilbao versus Real Madrid at the San Mamés. Of course, with Real Madrid knowing that they just signed Jude Bellingham, for the fact that Vinicius will be wearing number 7, Rodrigo is now donning the number 11 jersey. So it's a season that, basically, perhaps as footballing fans, analysts across the world might fancy Real Madrid clinching the La Liga title this season with all the prowess that they have in that midfield, even in attack. The two pacey Brazilians in attack, they've got so many options. French midfielders, Chouameni, Eduardo Camavinga, Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, their new signing, former Borussia Dortmund talisman Jude Bellingham, and many more, even Uruguayan Federico Valverde. Wow, they've got quality in their side, as well as we have seen also Joselu. He was very prolific for the relegated Espanyol last season, and we saw him even for Spain in the UEFA Nations League. He was on top of his game. He was also on target, as we saw him score against Italy. And Joselu is an experienced striker. We've seen him at Stoke City in the Premier League, and he is a prolific striker. So perhaps he will be banging in those goals. As Real Madrid this will be their first season without their former talismanic captain Karim Benzema, who has since moved on to the Saudi Pro League. Of course, Real Madrid, as expected, they were dominant in this game, but it didn't come easy. It was a very tough game because obviously, at the San Mamés, going to the San Mamés is never an easy fixture for any team in the league. We've seen over the years, even Barcelona has struggled at the San Mamés. Athletic Bilbao is a team that is worthy of competing at a high level, so it was never going to come easy. But of course, Real Madrid did win the game, courtesy of goals by Rodrigo, and of course their new signing Jude Bellingham. Rodrigo did open the scoring in the 28th minute, as a combination between him and Dani Carvajal led to Real Madrid scoring the first goal in the first half of the game. And then we saw the game was pretty much wrapped in the 36th minute of the game, courtesy of Jude Bellingham pouncing from a David Alaba corner kick. So Rodrigo and Bellingham were on target as Los Blancos won their first game of the season, perhaps, which is a great start for them in terms of in terms of challenging for the title, and hopefully they will meet expectations this season. We saw a great performance by Chouameni in the midfield, holding that midfield, calmly. Vinicius Jr. did have an opportunity of his own, as we saw him. Vinicius did what he does best, dribbling past two defenders, only to see his shot saved by the Athletic goalkeeper. And Bilbao did also create chances in the second half, but unfortunately I don't think they were clinical enough in front of goal to even trouble the Real Madrid goalkeeper, as we have also seen that in recent times Real Madrid have signed Kepa Arrizabalaga from Chelsea. At some point in time, he was the world's most expensive goalkeeper in the world, after signing from Athletic Bilbao for a 70 million euro fee, which in many cases, in many instances, you might say it was not really worth it, considering the fact that Kepa hasn't really lived up to his expectations there at the bridge. But hopefully he will do well for Los Blancos, as we know Thibaut Courtois is on the sidelines. We are not yet sure as to when he will be back in action, but Kepa Arrizabalaga will be there, will be stepping in his place, and hopefully he will keep the remote. He will do his job as the last man of defense for Los Blancos going into the season. Well, Sunday was also an action-packed day, as we saw Celta Vigo slumping to a 2-0 defeat to Osasuna, that courtesy of goals by Ruben Garcia and Moy Gomez. The former Villarreal striker Moy Gomez scoring the second goal for Osasuna in that game as well. Going into the other game, we saw Villarreal take on Real Betis. Basically, these are teams that have also really shown that they can perform, to the highest level. It was a cracking game, and it did live up to expectations as 3 goals were scored in this encounter, courtesy of Real Betis winning the game by 2-1. Villarreal took the Real Betis took the lead courtesy of former Leicester City and Newcastle United forward Ayoze Perez, pouncing on a cross from 22-year-old Brazilian winger Luis Henrique, who was brought in from Fluminense in 2022. The speedy Brazilian set up the former Leicester City forward, and Real Betis took the lead in the 20th minute. Then we saw, of course, we knew that it was about to come, that Villarreal would eventually equalize, as they did so in the 61st minute, courtesy of Jose Cuenca, who pounced on an assist from 22-year-old Spanish midfielder Alex Buena. And then we saw former Real Sociedad and Wolverhampton Wanderers Brazilian forward Willian Jose wrapping up victory, scoring the decisive winner in the 95th minute of the game to see Real Betis clinch their first victory of the season away from home. 2-1 was the final score, as he was assisted by Senegalese right back Youssef Sabali, who actually had a stellar tournament. He had a stellar tournament at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. He did well for Senegal, and he did show off his quality by setting up the Brazilian striker, who pounced on with a wonderful header to see Real Betis claiming their first 3 points of the season. And of course, it came with no surprise that former Real Madrid midfielder Isco was the man of the match. He was the man of the match, so it didn't come as a surprise. We know Isco and his quality that he produced at Real Madrid and for the Spanish national team. And we know Isco is a quality player. Indeed, he is a quality player, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does well. We wish him all the best at Real Betis, and we know he will show his quality. Hopefully help the team actually reach greater heights this season. Perhaps maybe finish in a Champions League position or even challenge for the league title. But we know him and his quality, and he did deserve the man of the match. Well, in other games, the late game that we saw, which we were all looking forward to, was the Getafe at Madrid. Getafe versus champions FC Barcelona. It was pretty much a controversial encounter, considering the fact that both teams were reduced to 10 men. We saw Rafinha being shown a straight red card after a dangerous tackle in the first half. He fell for temptation right there. I think that was kind of unnecessary. He fell for the trap that was set from Getafe. But it was pretty much... It was shocking that Getafe couldn't capitalize on the fact that FC Barcelona, Blaugrana was reduced to 10 men. But then it was pretty much shocking that Getafe couldn't capitalize on that. But then eventually they were also reduced to 10 men as well in the second half. And it was pretty much not much goal action. Yeah, we did see goal at mouth action in the first half, as we saw Rafinha had an opportunity as his shot was saved by the goalkeeper. And I guess we saw also Ansu having a chance in the second half, failing to capitalize as well. So not much goal mouth action, but there was really so much drama. It was an entertaining game. It was a game that had you could see this was a caliber of both teams wanting to win the game, but unfortunately there was no that killer instinct, there was no that sucker punch, that could see any side clinch 3 points. So it did result in a disappointing stalemate, which was the first goalless draw of the season. So hopefully with time both these teams can actually start really upping their game in terms of sharpening their scoring ability. We know obviously with FC Barcelona they have their talisman, their prolific Polish striker Robert Lewandowski, who was the top goal scorer in La Liga last season, claiming the Pichichi. So hopefully he will sharpen his scoring boots soon, And we know that with all his quality, with all the players that he has got, unfortunately with the departure of Ousmane Dembele, and now that Rafinha is also suspended for a few games, we're not sure as to where he will get his service from, but we just hope that with time the guy Robert Lewandowski will pounce and he will open his account for the season. In other games that we saw yesterday, which was Monday Night Football, we saw two games playing. The first being Cadiz versus Alaves, and the second being Atletico Madrid taking on Granada at the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid. The first game resulted in a 1-0 victory for Cadiz, courtesy of Federico San Emeterio, pouncing on, scoring very early in the game as he scored in the 7th minute of the game. As well as we saw there was late drama in the game, as in the 88th minute, Argentine midfielder, former Lazio, the man who was signed on a permanent basis from Lazio, Argentine midfielder Gonzalo Escalante, was sent off in the 88th minute. He came on as a substitute. So that was pretty much it. And then we saw in the other game, Atletico Madrid versus Granada. Of course, we knew Atletico Madrid were going to win the game. We're much favorites to win the game, but it was not going to be easy. Of course, they won the game by 3-1, courtesy of Alvaro Morata scoring late on in the first half. Then we saw Granada got the equalizer in the second half, courtesy of Spanish-born Nigerian striker who was promoted to the first team this season from the reserve team of Granada, Semi Omoridion Agashoa, who did score in the early second half. And then we saw Memphis Depay scored a bullet. He scored a bullet from outside the box to give Atletico the 2-1 victory, to give the Atletico the 2-1 lead, I meant to say. And then we saw Marcus Llorente sealing the victory for Atletico Madrid in the last minute of the game. As we saw Atletico getting off to a great start for the year, also as we know that they might be a title challenger for the season. So for more sporting information, please also watch the highlights. Please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to comment, share your own predictions, share your own perspective, and please, we'll be in touch very soon. Please also watch the highlights following this discussion, and we'll be in touch with you guys very soon. Cheers.